A Rick and Morty anime. Sounds like a great idea, right?
I don't think we should forget. Not this. Someone has to remember.
Someone will.
Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks about Rick and Morty the most on YouTube, and you're on my channel. I think the first thing everyone talked about when they saw the trailer for the Rick and Morty anime was the visual style of the animation, which displeased most fans. Well, I didn't like that aesthetic either, and I think they could find many other styles that would be more pleasing, but I won't talk too much about that point, because there were other things that I didn't like and few people are talking about. In the first episode, the story is presented in a somewhat strange way. The episode deals with alternative realities, but the way the direction of the episode transitions between one narrative and another is extremely strange and confusing, because you have difficulty understanding what's going on. But don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about it being complex. Rick and Morty has always had relatively complex plots. But don't think that complex and confusing are the same thing. I'm saying that the plot is confusing because the direction of the episode wasn't competent enough to make things clearer. In a recent interview, the person responsible for the anime, Takashi Sano, stated that because it has an essentially different proposal, a Rick and Morty anime would have a different narrative format, and also differences in the way the characters interact to be better adapted to the language of the anime. And that's not a problem. I always say that change isn't a problem. The problem is change and it being bad. But honestly, as a big fan of Rick and Morty who has watched all the other seasons, I don't intend to continue watching this animation. I'm going to stop at these first 3 episodes, which is a shame, because I never thought we would have a Rick and Morty product that wouldn't please the fans and that wouldn't please me. But let's take a step by step to understand why I didn't like it and why the anime isn't pleasing a large portion of the fans. The main story of the episode is that Rick is being chased because of an antimatter bomb he has, while Morty is using a virtual reality helmet that Rick gave him, and a good part of the episode is about realities experienced within this virtual world, and the idea is good. I'm not complaining about that, because depending on how the writers had worked it, it could have been a cool episode, but in practice it wasn't quite like that, because at the beginning of the episode, it shows that in this virtual reality, time means nothing. The story could move forward or back without any problem, but for some reason that is not explained, several alternative dimensions start to mix with the game, so everything that happens is half real and half fake. And this is the part where I say everything got confusing, because we had several random scenes that were cut out of nowhere, and replaced by other random scenes that were also cut out of nowhere, and we see old Morty, then young Morty, then old Morty with a guy, then young Morty with a girl, then young Morty with the same guy, and many random things interspersed that left the editing of the episode a mess. This kind of misdirection doesn't happen in the episodes of the regular Rick and Morty series, and that has already left me discouraged with the series. When you continue from the second episode onwards, you realize that they are not actually isolated episodes, they are continuations, which usually doesn't happen in the main series, because each episode usually has its beginning, middle and end closed within the episode itself. But in this anime, each episode is a direct continuation of the previous one, and this is not a problem. It is even interesting that the anime creates its own form of narrative that differentiates it from the main series. The problem for me is in the way it was made, because each episode doesn't seem like an episode to me. It seems like a snippet, like a YouTube video that is showing part of something, and that is very strange. It is as if the anime were actually a movie, and each episode was actually a piece of that movie, and these pieces were not made to work within the logic of an episode, but are working in the logic of a YouTube video. Since the episodes do not end, they simply stop and continue in the next one. But the Monio, you just said that the episodes don't follow a logic of isolated stories and that one continues the previous one, so what did you expect? Well, even if each episode is a direct continuation of the previous one, there needs to be coherence within an episode's logic. It needs to at least conclude something at the end of one episode and start another at the beginning of the next. For example, films that are continuations of each other, even if they continue from the scene where the previous one left off, need to follow a logic of beginning, middle and end of each film, and with series it is no different, and with anime we can say that this also happens. Each episode adapts the manga, dividing the story into narrative blocks that make sense for an episode, which does not happen here. Another thing that in my opinion does not work is the comic timing. The main series of Rick and Morty has a very accurate humor, with jokes very well fitted into a rhythm that does not lose the humor, with a lot of dynamism in everything that happens, and the humor of this anime really did not grab me. First, because it does not exactly try to be funny by what is said. It is more of a type of humor that tries to generate comical situations, but that does not work in my opinion. And another thing that doesn't work in this anime is the pacing, because the original series has a very fast pace. A lot happens in an episode of Rick and Morty, and watching the original series you get the feeling that not a single minute of screen time is being wasted, and that the episode is optimized to the maximum for those 20 minutes, and this is something that is sorely lacking in the anime, because everything is very slow and without rhythm. It seems like things take a long time to happen, and there are several scenes that could be cut because they don't add to the humor or the narrative. I watched the first 3 episodes of the anime, which is what was released at the time of recording this video, but my impressions were really bad, which is a shame because right when the first trailers for what would be the Rick and Morty anime came out, and people looked at that visual style and said it was horrible, I was one of the few who believed that the series could be good, that style could make sense within the narrative that they were going to build. In fact, I think the visual style makes sense within the proposal. The problem is that the proposal wasn't good. The original series' visual style was already quite cartoonish, and the anime tries to make it even more cartoonish, and it doesn't work. In addition to being visually ugly, in my opinion, the quality leaves something to be desired in some scenes, since we have scenes that are computer generated, and this CGI visual style results in some very horrible scenes. But the Monyo, the anime will probably tell the story of Rick's past, since we have a younger Rick fighting with the current Rick. Well, to be quite honest, I'm not interested. If that's the way they're going to tell this story, I think the character Rick will only lose out. And I know that there are very committed Rick and Morty fans who create several theories about the character's past and take everything very seriously. But honestly, if you're one of those people, I think there's a big chance you'll be disappointed. But what about you guys? Have you watched the Rick and Morty anime? If you liked it, how was your experience? Do you agree with the points I made? Leave it in the comments, and if you liked the video, consider subscribing to the channel to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.